Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. My beloved sisters in Islam, today, I want to speak directly to the hearts of those who feel alone, to the woman who sits in silence, whose tears fall in the darkness of the night, whose heart feels empty in a room full of people. This is for you. Let me begin by reminding you, your loneliness is not a punishment from Allah. It is not a sign that you are unworthy. It is not a curse. It may, in fact, be one of the greatest signs that Allah loves you. We look at the lives of those most beloved to Allah. Take Maryam alayha salam, for example, a woman of purity, of piety, chosen above the women of the world. And yet, she was alone when she gave birth. She was rejected by her people. She even said in her moment of weakness, "Oh, I wish I had died before this and was in oblivion, forgotten." Qur'an 19:23. Loneliness is one of the most profound and often misunderstood tests from Allah. Many women, especially those who find themselves alone, whether single, divorced, widowed, or simply emotionally isolated, begin to question their worth. They may feel forgotten, abandoned, or even punished. But this is a misunderstanding. In Islam, loneliness is not a punishment. It is a deeply personal spiritual test that can be a path to immense reward and closeness to Allah. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sometimes places His servants in a state of solitude to strengthen their hearts. He distances them from the world so they learn to rely entirely on Him. This is not to cause pain, but to purify and elevate. We see this even in the life of the most beloved to Allah, Prophet Muhammad. Before the revelation came to him, he would often isolate himself in the cave of Hira. He would contemplate, pray, and reflect in silence. He was alone in the physical sense, but he was never truly alone because Allah was with him. This tells us something powerful. When you are alone, it is often the time Allah chooses to connect directly with your heart. It's in the silence that you begin to hear your soul's voice. It's in the absence of people that you begin to feel the presence of your Creator. A woman may feel lonely because her du'as are not yet answered. She may ask, "Why hasn't Allah sent me a spouse? Or why did my husband leave? Or why am I always the one who gives, but no one gives back to me?" These are honest questions. They come from a place of pain, but in that very pain lies an opportunity, a door to reach a level of sincerity in dua and trust in Allah that is rarely achieved during times of ease. When a person is in pain and no one else knows, the only place she can turn is to the one who does know. Allah says in the Qur'an, "Indeed, Allah is ever watchful over His servants." Qur'an 8:9-14. He sees the tears you cry on your pillow. He sees you pretending to smile when you're breaking inside. He sees the strength you put on every morning when you'd rather stay in bed. That silent strength, that endurance, it is not wasted. Do you think Allah does not reward your silent struggle? Every time you choose sabr instead of anger, every time you choose dua instead of despair, every time you forgive instead of retaliate, these are heavy on your scale in the hereafter. And perhaps the greatest reward is that Allah draws you closer to Him through it all. We are conditioned by the world to think that being alone means being incomplete. But in the sight of Allah, your value is never determined by your relationship status. The most honored people with Allah are those with taqwa, not those with spouses, children, or wealth. A woman who fears Allah in her solitude is more precious than 1,000 who are admired by society. Her patience is known to Allah, her dignity, her chastity, her resilience. These are qualities that the angels themselves write in her book of deeds. Sometimes Allah removes people from your life because He wants you to rediscover Him. Sometimes He keeps you waiting because He knows the timing is not yet right. And sometimes He keeps you alone because He knows that this is the only way you will truly return to Him. If you are constantly surrounded by comfort and companionship, you might forget the sweetness of calling upon Him in desperation. But now, when you raise your hands and say, "Ya Allah, only You know what's in my heart," that dua pierces the heavens. Don't rush to escape loneliness. Transform it. Use it as fuel to grow spiritually. Read Qur'an not just with your eyes but with your heart. Speak to Allah in the language of your tears. He is always listening. He is always near. Allah says, "And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the dua of the supplicant when he calls upon me." Qur'an 2:18-6. You may feel that no one understands you, but your Creator understands. You may feel unseen, but you are seen by the one who created sight itself. That is enough. That is more than enough. So dear sister, hold on. Be patient. Continue to walk with dignity. Even if you walk alone in this world, know that angels walk beside you and Allah is always with you. Your loneliness is not a punishment. It's a bridge, leading your heart straight back to the one who never leaves. In today's world, many women are made to feel that their worth depends on their relationship status. A woman is praised when she gets married, celebrated when she becomes a mother, and often pitied or questioned when she remains single, divorced, or childless. Society, culture, and even family sometimes impose this subtle yet heavy expectation that a woman's identity must revolve around someone else. But Islam comes to break those false standards. In the sight of Allah, a woman's worth is not defined by her marital status, but by her taqwa, her consciousness of Allah, her sincerity, and her character. The Qur'an and the Sunnah are filled with examples of women whose greatness had nothing to do with a husband or a title. Take the example of Maryam alayhas salam. She was unmarried, and yet Allah chose her above all women of the world. Allah honored her not for her relationship to any man but for her devotion, chastity, and worship. He said in the Qur'an, O Maryam, indeed Allah has chosen you, purified you, and chosen you above the women of all nations. Qur'an 3:42. What was the reason? It wasn't because she was a wife or a mother at that point. It was because she was a woman of immense taqwa, sincerity, and humility before Allah. This should teach us something powerful. If Maryam, as one of the greatest women in human history, was honored by Allah without ever being known by the name of a husband, then why should today's women allow society to define their value based on marital status? If Allah didn't link her value to a man, then neither should we link ours. Many women feel that they are incomplete without a husband. This is understandable because human beings naturally crave companionship. Islam does not deny this need. Marriage is a blessing and a mercy. But it is not what completes you. Only Allah completes you. You were not created for marriage. You were created to worship Allah. Marriage is a path, not the destination. It is a means, not the goal. And the absence of that means does not make your life empty. The Prophet said, Allah does not look at your appearance or your wealth, but He looks at your hearts and your deeds. Muslim. This hadith alone shatters the worldly criteria that people use to measure worth. A woman's value in Islam is based on her iman, her character, her modesty, her worship, not on how many children she has or whether she wears a wedding ring. Sometimes women are made to feel ashamed for being single or divorced, as though something is wrong with them. But let's remember, some of the mothers of the believers, the wives of the Prophet, were widows and divorcees. Khadija Ra, the most beloved wife of the Prophet, was a widow and older than him. Salama Ra was a single mother and widow before she married the Prophet. These women were not defined by their pasts, and they were not seen as less. Rather, they were honored, respected, and chosen for a purpose far greater than public opinion. So if you are a woman who is walking this journey of life without a companion, do not think you are alone or left behind. Allah has not forgotten you. Sometimes He delays certain blessings not to deny you but to prepare you. He is saving you from things you do not see. He knows your heart better than you know yourself. And while people may look at you with pity or judgment, Allah looks at you with mercy and love. Do not let the shallow standards of society define your self-worth. You are not less because you are not married. You are not incomplete because you do not have children. You are not left behind because your path looks different. In fact, your path may be the one that brings you closer to Allah, and that is what truly matters. Instead of measuring your life by worldly milestones, measure it by how close you are to your Creator. How often do you pray on time? How sincere are your du'as? How strong is your patience? How clean is your heart from jealousy and anger? These are the real questions that determine your value in the sight of Allah. So carry yourself with dignity. Be proud of your worship. Educate yourself. Grow in your knowledge and your character. Smile with strength. Walk with purpose. And know that in the eyes of your Creator you are honored, not because of your title but because of your taqwa. This world may applaud beauty, fame, and relationships, but Allah applauds sincerity, humility, and perseverance. The world may forget your worth, but Allah never does. And when He is pleased with you, it is better than all the praise and recognition of people combined. So strive for His pleasure, and let your worth be defined by Him alone. One of the most powerful and relatable stories in the Qur'an for a woman who feels lonely, judged, or misunderstood is the story of Maryam alayhas salam. Her life was full of spiritual honor, yet she faced intense moments of isolation and deep emotional struggle. She wasn't just a symbol of piety. She was also a woman who endured being alone in a way that very few people can truly understand. Her story is not just a historical account, it is a living example for every woman today who faces loneliness, judgment, or societal pressure. Maryam was chosen by Allah, purified and elevated above all other women. This was not a small matter. Allah Himself declared her status. Yet despite her rank with Allah, she experienced profound emotional pain and was tested in the most difficult of ways. When she conceived Isa, she had done nothing wrong. This was a miracle from Allah. But imagine the weight of what she had to carry. She was alone, she was young, and she was pregnant in a society that would never believe her. She withdrew from her people, isolated herself, and faced the fear of their judgment all by herself. There was no one by her side. In that moment of extreme loneliness as she went into labor, her pain was not just physical, it was emotional and psychological. She cried out, "Oh, I wish I had died before this and was in oblivion forgotten." Qur'an 19:23. These are not words of weakness, they are words of deep human vulnerability. This is how much pressure and fear she felt. Even someone as righteous and beloved to Allah as Maryam reached a point where she felt completely overwhelmed, and yet Allah did not leave her. In her darkest hour, He provided for her from sources she could never have imagined. He told her through divine instruction not to grieve. A stream of water flowed beneath her. Dates from the palm tree fell. He reminded her to be strong and patient. He told her to remain silent when the people questioned her, and He let the miracle of Isa speak on her behalf. This is the lesson. Even the most righteous can feel overwhelmed. Even the purest hearts can feel broken. Even the most beloved to Allah can feel alone. But Allah never abandons them. When Maryam felt she had no one, she had Him, and He was enough. For any woman who is facing a silent struggle, who feels the weight of judgment, or who bears a burden that no one else understands, remember Maryam if she in her piety and devotion was tested with loneliness, then know that your test is not a sign of Allah's anger. It is a sign that He is refining you, elevating you, and drawing you nearer to Him. There are times in life when a woman is forced into emotional or social isolation, not because she chooses it, but because circumstances push her there. Maybe she's a single mother, raising her children with no help. Maybe she's divorced and facing the whispers of those around her. Maybe she's a young woman waiting for marriage, watching as others move on with their lives. Maybe she's married but feels emotionally distant from the one she expected love from. These are all real, silent battles. But what makes a difference is how you carry that loneliness. Maryam didn't respond with bitterness or anger. She responded with silence, dignity, and trust in Allah. She carried herself with strength. And her strength was not from the people, it was from her Creator. Let that be your strength too. You may not have someone standing beside you, but you have the same Lord that Maryam had. The same one who provided for her when she was alone will provide for you. The same one who defended her against false accusations will protect your honor. The same one who knew her pain without her speaking it will respond to your silent tears. Don't allow the world to make you feel weak because you're alone. Solitude with Allah is not weakness, it is power. It is transformation. When the people of this world misunderstand you, misjudge you, or walk away from you, understand that you are in the company of someone who faced the same and remained beloved in the eyes of Allah. Your story may not be the same as Maryam's, but your feelings may be. And just like Allah was there for her, He is here for you. You only need to turn to Him, trust Him, and carry your test with the grace and patience of those who truly believe. Your loneliness is not a void, it is a sacred space where your heart can finally meet your Lord. There is something incredibly powerful about dua, supplication. It is the most direct form of connection between the servant and their Creator. And for the woman who feels alone, who cries silently in the middle of the night, who holds pain in her heart that she cannot explain to anyone, dua becomes her closest companion. When there is no one around to listen, no friend who truly understands, and no family member who sees the full extent of her hurt, Allah remains. He is always near, and He listens, always. Loneliness can be a heavy test, but within that test lies an opportunity, an opening to draw closer to Allah in a way that is often not possible when we are surrounded by people and distractions. When the heart feels empty from the absence of companionship, that same emptiness becomes fertile ground for sincerity in dua. The tears that fall in secret, the whispers spoken only to the Lord of the worlds, are never wasted. They are more valuable than words said in crowds. They are more honest, more raw, more real. The Prophet Muhammad said, "There is nothing more honorable to Allah than dua." Tirmidhi, it is an act of worship that has no barrier, no timing, no language requirement, no specific ritual. You can call upon Allah at any moment, in any place, in any emotional state, and the lonely heart often produces the most sincere dua. Because there is no pretending in solitude, there is no performance, there is just you and your Creator. And in that space, you can be completely honest. You can pour out your fears, your sadness, your hopes, your regrets, your needs, and the one you're speaking to already knows everything. Allah says in the Qur'an, "Call upon me, I will respond to you." Qur'an 40:60. This is not a vague promise. This is a guarantee from the one whose words are always true. He didn't say he might respond. He said, "I will." So for every woman who makes dua with a trembling heart, with a voice choked by tears, know that your words are being heard. Your pain is being recorded, and your patience is being rewarded. There are women who endure silently, those who are taking care of children alone, those waiting patiently for a righteous spouse, those who feel emotionally abandoned in their marriages, those who have lost a loved one and feel the ache of that absence every day. These women may smile on the outside but battle storms within, and the world may not see it. But Allah sees it. He knows, and He listens. When you speak to Him, you are never ignored. When you cry to Him, your tears are not unnoticed. Every dua you make is stored. It is either answered immediately, delayed for your benefit, or saved for you in the next life in a form so beautiful that you will wish none of your duas had been answered in this world. Dua is also a form of healing. It doesn't always change your situation instantly, but it changes you. It reminds you that you are not powerless. It returns your sense of hope. It makes you realize that even if people fail you, Allah never will. It shifts your focus from the creation to the Creator. And once your heart is anchored in Allah, the storms of this world cannot shake you. Sometimes people hesitate to make dua because they feel unworthy. They think, "I've sinned too much," or "I haven't been a good Muslim," or "Why would Allah listen to someone like me?" But these thoughts are from shaitan. Allah's door is always open. The Prophet said, "Your Lord is generous and shy. If His servant raises his hands to Him, He becomes shy to return them empty." Ahmad, Abu Dawood. This hadith shows how deeply Allah cares for us, how He loves it when we ask, how He honors our trust in Him. So never stop making dua. Even if your situation doesn't change overnight, keep talking to Allah. Let your silence be filled with whispered prayers. Let your isolation become a sacred time of connection. Let your tears become a witness on the day of judgment that you turn to Allah in your hardest moments. Loneliness may be bitter, but it is in those moments that you can build the strongest relationship with your Lord. People may leave, life may disappoint, but Allah remains. And every dua you make, whether for peace, strength, companionship, or healing, is a step closer to Him. Keep making dua. Keep your heart open, because the one you are speaking to is the most merciful, the most loving, the one who never breaks His promise. One of the most beautiful truths in Islam is that the companionship of Allah is greater than the companionship of people. It is comforting to have someone by your side in life to share your thoughts with, to lean on when you feel weak, but no human being can ever truly fill the void in your heart the way Allah can. People, no matter how sincere, are limited. They get tired, they forget, they misunderstand. But Allah never does. He is not bound by time, space, or emotion. He is always present, always near, and always understanding. For the woman who feels alone in the world, this truth is a source of strength and hope that can never be taken away. Allah says in the Qur'an, "Indeed I am near." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:18-6. He doesn't just say that He hears you or that He is aware. He says that He is near, near to the brokenhearted, near to the one who stays up at night, thinking, praying, crying, near to the one who feels unseen by the world. This nearness is not metaphorical. It is real, spiritual, and powerful. It means that you are never truly alone. Even when your phone is silent, when no one texts to ask how you are, when no one notices your pain, Allah is there, closer to you than your own soul. This is a level of companionship that no human can offer. Sometimes Allah distances you from people so that you can learn to rely entirely on Him. You may not understand it at first. You may ask why people left, why you feel disconnected, why your circle has grown smaller. But those are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of divine redirection. When the noise of the world is turned down, the voice of your heart becomes clearer. And in that clarity you find Allah. There are moments in a woman's life when even those closest to her may not truly understand her struggle. Perhaps she's married but feels emotionally neglected. Perhaps she's surrounded by people but feels unseen. Or maybe she lives alone, handling everything with no one to share her burdens. These experiences can make a person feel invisible. But the moment she turns to Allah with sincerity, even if it's just a sigh, a tear, or a silent thought, He responds. Allah is not just aware of your struggles, He is actively involved in guiding you through them, strengthening you through them, and rewarding you for them. He is Al-Wadud, the most loving. He knows the language of your tears. He sees the weight you carry in your chest, and He is never far. His love is not like human love. It doesn't fade with time. It doesn't depend on your appearance, achievements, or social status. His love is constant, unchanging, and pure, and the more you turn to Him, the more you feel it. It fills the empty places that the world cannot reach. When you remember Allah in your solitude, you are building a relationship that no hardship can destroy. Every prayer you whisper, every verse you recite, every moment you spend alone remembering Him, it all adds up. It all builds a spiritual connection that strengthens you from within. This connection becomes your shield when you face difficulties, your anchor when you feel lost, and your light when everything else feels dark. Sometimes we expect people to understand us, to comfort us, to support us in exactly the way we need. But humans are not perfect. They can't always be there. They don't always know the right words. They can't always see beneath the surface. But Allah sees the things you cannot express. He knows what's in your heart before you even speak it. And He never grows tired of you coming back to Him again and again. For every woman who feels alone, remember that your value is not reduced by the absence of people. Your strength is not measured by how many friends you have or whether someone calls you every day. Your strength lies in your ability to walk through life with Allah as your closest companion. When your heart is filled with the awareness of Him, when you carry His remembrance on your tongue, and when you trust Him even when life feels uncertain, you are never alone. This world can be a noisy, confusing place, but the heart that remembers Allah finds peace. The heart that knows He is near never truly feels empty. So even if you find yourself in a season of solitude, let it be a season of growth. Let it be a time when you come closer to your Creator, because His company is the only one that guarantees you peace in this life and eternal companionship in the next. One of the most comforting truths in Islam is that Allah knows everything. Every thought, every pain, every tear, every struggle, nothing is hidden from Him. For a woman who suffers in silence, who carries her burdens quietly, who smiles on the outside while breaking inside, this truth is a lifeline. The world may not see your pain, your family may not understand, your friends might overlook it, but Allah never does. He knows what you're going through, even when you can't find the words to express it. There are many women who live with emotional wounds that are never spoken about. A woman may feel abandoned in her marriage, yet continue fulfilling her role with patience. Another may be struggling with infertility, quietly watching others celebrate what her heart aches for. A widow may cry in the silence of the night for the husband she lost. A single woman might endure judgment from relatives and society because she hasn't married yet. A mother may feel drained, unseen, overwhelmed, but never say a word. These are not just situations, they are silent struggles. And often no one sees the full picture, but Allah does. Allah says in the Qur'an, "Indeed your Lord is ever watchful." Surah Al-Fajr 8-9-14. He is not only aware of what's happening around you, He is watching over you with care, mercy, and full knowledge of what's in your heart. That sigh you let out when you're exhausted, that tear you wipe quickly so no one sees, that moment when your heart feels so heavy and you don't know who to turn to, Allah sees it all. And not only does He see it, He rewards you for enduring it with patience, for turning to Him, for remaining firm in your faith even when your world feels unstable. The pain you feel doesn't need to be broadcasted to the world to be valid. Sometimes your strength lies in your silence. But in Islam we are never truly silent. Our pain, even when unspoken, is heard by Allah. The Prophet said, "In verily Allah is kind and generous. He is shy to turn away His servant empty-handed when he raises his hands to Him." Ahmad, even when your heart whispers, Allah hears it. There's a verse in the Qur'an that brings deep comfort. He knows what is within the hearts. Surah Al-Mulk 6-7-13. You may act like you're okay and you may be doing everything right on the outside, But Allah knows the storm inside you. He knows what's been said to you, how it made you feel, and how you chose not to respond just to protect your dignity. He knows how you held back your tears in front of others. He knows how much effort you're putting in just to stay strong. In this life, people may only judge what they see. They may measure your success by superficial things, how you look, how much you've achieved, whether you're married or have children. But Allah judges you by your sincerity, your patience, your resilience, and your efforts. That woman who remains kind despite being hurt, who keeps her prayers even when she feels numb, who wakes up for tahajjud to cry to Allah in private, she is beloved to Allah even if the world never sees her. This understanding brings deep comfort. It gives you the courage to continue. It reminds you that your worth is not tied to anyone else's recognition. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone because the one who created you already knows your worth. Your private pain is not a secret from Him, and your silent strength is not lost. Sometimes Allah allows you to go through hidden struggles because He wants to elevate you. He wants to bring you closer to Him. He wants to teach you reliance, not on people, but on Him alone. The pain becomes a tool for purification, and the struggle becomes a pathway to Jannah. Allah never allows pain without purpose. He is too merciful to burden you without reason. So if you're suffering quietly, keep going, keep praying, keep trusting. Your Lord is watching. He is recording every sacrifice, every tear, every effort, and He promises that indeed, the patient will be given their reward without account. Surah Az-Zumar 3:9-10. The day will come when every moment of pain you endured silently will be brought forth and rewarded openly. The world may never applaud you, but Allah will honor you in ways far beyond your imagination. And that, dear sister, is enough. In every stage of life, we are constantly searching for something to complete us. Companionship, love, stability, peace. For many women, this search often centers around waiting for the right person, a spouse who will bring comfort, support, and fulfillment. And while marriage is indeed a blessing and a part of the natural human need for connection, it is not the foundation of a woman's worth. Islam teaches us something deeper, something liberating. Before you seek to be completed by someone else, you must first build yourself spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. You must know your value with Allah and strengthen that relationship before you allow anyone else into your heart. Many women grow up being told, explicitly or subtly, that their true life begins when they get married. They are made to feel like they are waiting for someone to validate their existence. But the truth is, your life has value before anyone else enters it. Your identity is not tied to another human being. It is rooted in your soul, your faith, and your purpose as a servant of Allah. You were created not to please the world or to chase after approval, but to know and worship Allah. When you spend time alone, not just physically but emotionally, you are given a unique opportunity to develop a strong internal foundation. You begin to ask deeper questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? What do I want my life to mean? And most importantly, how strong is my relationship with my Creator? These questions are not distractions, they are necessary. Because until you truly know yourself and align your heart with Allah, you will always feel a sense of emptiness, even if you are surrounded by people. If a woman rushes into relationships without building herself first, she is more likely to accept less than she deserves. She may attach her happiness to someone else, expecting them to heal her wounds or carry her burdens. But no human being can do that perfectly. When your heart is empty of Allah, you place an impossible burden on the people around you. You expect them to fill a space that only Allah can fill. And when they fall short, as all humans do, you feel disappointed, hurt, or lost. But when your heart is already full of faith, when you have built your identity around your purpose and your connection with Allah, you enter any relationship from a position of strength, not desperation. You are not looking for someone to save you. You are looking for someone to walk beside you, to grow with you, to help you get closer to Allah. And if Allah hasn't yet written marriage for you, you are still whole. You are still valuable. You are still complete. This doesn't mean you shouldn't desire companionship. Islam encourages marriage and recognizes its emotional and spiritual benefits. But it teaches us balance. It teaches us that while love is beautiful and self-worth does not begin or end with it, you are not incomplete because you are waiting. You are being prepared. And this time, this space you have now, is not a punishment. It is a gift. Use it. Learn about your faith. Strengthen your salah. Build discipline. Heal from past wounds. Grow emotionally. Develop talents. Serve others. read, reflect, become the kind of woman who, whether single or married, shines with iman and purpose. One of the most powerful examples we have is the early Muslim women around the Prophet. They were women of knowledge, strength, patience, and faith. Some were married, some were divorced, some were widowed. Yet what defined them was not their relationship status, but their character, their contributions, and their connection with Allah. They knew who they were, and because of that, they could stand firm even when the world around them was shaking. So to the woman who feels like she's waiting or feels like she's behind in life, know this: you are not behind. You are on your own path, perfectly timed by the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Allah is not late, He is wise. And while you wait, don't just count the days, make the days count. Don't just sit in pain, rise in purpose. Complete yourself with faith. Build your confidence through worship. Learn your deen, develop your skills, uplift others. Take care of your mental and emotional well-being. And when the time comes for someone to enter your life, let them find you already full of light, faith, strength, and clarity. Because a woman who walks with Allah is never incomplete. She is already whole,